what you think leadership is. For me, John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership was the textbook, right? Learn how to be a servant leader. Learn what that means, learn how to succeed in it. So I invested in myself, getting beyond smart guy who's an individual contributor that's good at telling jokes. When it was get serious about leading, it was get serious about leading.
Welcome to the Chad Carden Podcast, where people and culture make all the difference. Our guests are real leaders that are making real impact by creating even better cultures and even better results. We're going to talk about things that most people aren't talking about. We're going to talk about things that leaders are thinking but might be scared to say. We're going to get into issues that can give you practical and tactical ways to set you up for a higher probability of success. Let's get after it. Welcome to another episode where we're talking about industry disruptors and leaders. Today we have a really special guest, Jon Doolittle, President and CEO of Missouri Hospital Association. I've had a chance to know Jon, probably for 4 or 5 years now, and I'm just super impressed with kind of his history and his track record. And what I'm really interested in you getting out of this one is a couple things. One is Jon certainly sits at a very high level, but he wasn't always there. And so wondering, kind of hoping to capture some things that he's done along his journey that has allowed him to continuously elevate his career and also serve the people that he serves to drive the results that he's asked to drive on an everyday basis. Probably a lot more, but those are some of the key takeaways that I'm hoping to gather. So Jon, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Chad.
Why don't we start here? Kind of just give the listeners a little bit of background of you, your history, your experience, kind of leading up to today with Missouri Hospital Association and what's happening in that world.
Yeah, Chad, I'm my favorite topic. That's actually not true, but here we go. I'm a small town kid, born in Albany, Missouri, a town of about 2,000 people in the northwest corner of the state. Idyllic childhood. Grew up there, small school, got to do a little bit of everything, and found my way from there to Harvard University.
Wow.
When I was going through my college search early on, there was one thing I knew I didn't want to do, which was go to Harvard, because I went to one of the career fair, college fair type things, and I didn't really get along very well with the Harvard recruiter. And I was like, so I don't want to be one of those guys. As is often the case, you do a little bit more research, you get some good influence. I had a family friend who had gone back east to college, and he called me, just totally not out of the blue, but nothing he ever had to do, but invested in me for a few minutes on the 4th of July, a summer before my senior year in high school, and said, tell me about your college plans. And I told him some things I was thinking. He said, have you thought about going back east? I said, I could never afford that. He said, you haven't done your homework. If you do your homework, you're going to figure out that they have an endowment, they have money to give, they're looking for people like you. So this is a guy that spent a few hours of his life thinking about me, set me on that track. For whatever reason, Harvard let me in. I went back east for 4 years and loved it. I also never once imagined that the northeastern United States was the place where I was supposed to land. I was
Right.
excited to come home. And for me, home wasn't Albany at first, it was Kansas City. Kansas City was the city when I was growing up. My dad's from KCK. So I went to Kansas City, worked a short time for the Federal Reserve, and then followed a boss from the Fed to a company called Cerner Corporation. Cerner, now part of Oracle Health, total rocket ship. I started there in 1998. There was a slow period leading into Y2K because everybody was investing in current computer systems, making sure the world wasn't going to shut down.
Sure.
And then as soon as that was over, the dot-com boom hit, health information technology boomed, transformation of this industry, and I had a front row seat. And as a 20-something-year-old, I got to do some amazing projects at Cerner. It helped prepare me over the course of 11 years to take on my next challenge, opportunity, godsend, I don't know what to call it for sure. I went home, and I ran the hospital where I was born, back in Albany. My wife, Jenny, who you know, first and foremost, right? What's good for Jenny? What's good for our 6 kids? And we had the chance to move home, and I had a chance to run that hospital for 11 years. That put us 25 miles from her parents and next door to mine. And greatest professional honor of my life was to run my hometown hospital, be accountable and responsible for, and this is when I first stole this job description from somebody, taking care of people who take care of people. I did that for 11 years. Somebody said, what do you do? I take care of people who take care of people. We were an incredible organization there. And one of the things that we did there was leverage the Missouri Hospital Association. That's a trade association. here in the state. Nearly all of the hospitals in the state are members. And MHA's job is awfully well aligned to that one-line job description, right? We take care of people who take care of people. We used MHA very heavily. We benefited from an association, from learning from peers, from contributing, from having that level of insight and thought leadership come into our small town organization. And I served on the board for 7 years. And at the end of that time, my predecessor in this role, which is president and CEO of MHA, a guy named Herb Kuhn, Herb announced his plans to retire. And once again, a person reached into my world and said, hey, before we get started on the process to select Herb's replacement, are you a candidate? And I said, it's Charlie Shields at University Health in Kansas City. Charlie preceded me as the MHA board chair. So he was in charge of the search committee. So he said, are you a candidate? I said, I don't know, Charlie, you're running the search committee. Am I a candidate? And he said, well, you're plausible, right? So that was enough because of my fandom of this organization. That was enough to set me on this path. And as you know, Chad, this is when you and I became reacquainted or acquainted. I've been in this role for about 4 years. I get to work with about 135 people here at MHA. And we take care of people who take care of people, try and improve the health of Missourians by helping our member hospitals and health systems.
Man, there's so many ways I want to take this. Yeah, so just some other history. Jon and I have probably known each other across paths our entire life because of where my dad was up by Grant City and Sheridan, and our dads crossed paths, and we know a lot of the same people. So when we first met, you were on the board of HSG, and we were looking at that next CEO hunt as well. And we just happened to, have that connection. And then my infamous cousin Jared Welch came into the conversation, and then it turned sideways after that. But
no free ads. Don't stump for Welch here. Although he is incredibly worthy of whatever support might result from this.
Yeah. So I want to dive into MHA because I think it's so important to understand kind of how you guys do support all the hospitals here in Missouri. But I want to go back to something that you mentioned. I know, and I know this just because I know you, is that job is very demanding, Jon. Your job is very demanding, and I know you wear that, with pride. But I also know you're a family man, and today's world, balance seems to be, out of whack. How? Just give us some tips on how you stay sane, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but how do you stay sane in this whole thing with, running what you run and the responsibilities you have, but also, your family, and I just know that that's a huge anchor point in your life. How do you manage through that?
Look, it's elusive, but you use the key word, Chad. It's balance. I don't go home and talk about work. If somebody asks me a question, I do my best to answer it, but I never go deep and talking about work at home. And I try and decompress on the way. With that being said, I do involve my family in a number of events. MHA has a great culture around involving families and involving retirees in a way that I've never seen before. We invite every retiree of this organization to our socials, to our education events, things like that. And what happens then is there's just enough of an awareness and a respect that I think people at home give me some latitude because they know how seriously I take the work, and they see how I interact with coworkers, and they understand that I have the opportunity to serve those people the same way I have to serve them at home. And I've just been very fortunate. I mentioned Jenny already. You know her. Jenny is an incredibly mission-driven person. Her resume years ago, we put on there professional mom and volunteer. She's world-class at both. And the fact that I get to work in healthcare and take care of people means that she and I are often very aligned. My oldest daughter just graduated from college in May. She's a nurse in Kansas City. Our family's orientation is towards service, and so they give me a lot of latitude to go do what I think needs to be done. But again, we don't talk about it at home. Mm-hmm. When I'm home, I'm present.
Yeah.
I may peek at the phone. We all do. I probably do more than I should. But we have great routines. Early in the morning, late at night. We have things that are I don't want to say non-negotiable. We're still flexible. But we have great routines. And then things happen before and after we do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just managing your family alone, I mean, with all the kids going in different directions is a full job within itself. You and I both married up, I would do believe, right? We
I
both
think that's the
outfunded our coverage.
consensus. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we both
believe that.
outfunded our coverage with Sarah and Jenny. So let's get back to MHA. One of the things, obviously, MHA serves a lot of purposes, right? Supporting the hospitals within Missouri, and that there's a lot of different arrows that goes in a lot of different ways. You know, how do you help the team overall with the seat that you sit in be set up for success to support in all the areas? So kind of looking at MHA's culture and environment, you know, I always say that, you know, if you want to be at your best, you have to be at your best, right? You have to be at your best so you can show up for the best for others. What are some of the things that MHA does to create a strong culture, allows people to thrive in the roles that they sit in and drive the results that they're asked to drive on a daily basis?
Yeah, great question. And, you know, it's, as you can imagine, perpetually evolving. I mean, we all went through, particularly in healthcare, the COVID era of workplace environment and sort of choices that are made. We listen well. We try and figure out what people want, what people need. We are an association that largely has come back into the office, and we work hard at making sure that our spaces are supportive, that our interactions are professional, people don't have to worry about that. We also afford people a ton of flexibility. I don't know how great of a manager I am. I'm an okay leader of self-motivated, mission-driven people. And so my role here largely is about enabling, organizing, clarifying, from a structural perspective of how do you help those people go do their hard work. We're really on the lookout for toxicity in this environment. And the definition I learned years ago of toxicity in a work environment is simply unresolved conflict. So man, we share a lot, we talk a lot. I have a senior leadership team that I work to empower and distribute things to them. Whether it's the most efficient or not, we spend a half a day together every Monday. We're touching base, we're on the same page, we're running through priorities, and that's not a long agenda. It has lots of room for discussion and debate. It has lots of room for asking questions. So I mentioned a senior leadership team. We have a traditional, you know, sort of org chart leadership structure, but then when you're in this space, when you think about matching up to the needs of members in a membership services organization, members don't care how we're organized, they want solutions to certain problems. So if I've got somebody over education, communication, quality improvement, advocacy, we got to be able to go this way too. So we do a matrixed org structure where everybody knows who their boss is, but we don't want to spend a lot of time trying to figure out, do I need to work on this thing that so-and-so says I need to work on? So we've brought some clarity to our organization in regard to cross-cutting initiatives. Who's the executive champion? Who's the project owner? Who's on the team? We still have to be able to flex and talk about it, but with that level of sort of matrix structure and people knowing that we're all bought in and that we're holding each other accountable, that has aided our ability to get past a little bit of the unresolved conflict. And like a lot of organizations, there are still questions. Somebody's still trying to figure out, what does chain of command mean? It's one of my least favorite sort of concepts or sayings. It's important because people need to know, is this valid? Am I supposed to do this? Does this matter to my organization? Oftentimes people think it means, I don't know if I should talk to somebody across the building. I better go talk to my boss first. Yeah. That's no team of teams, man. That's not complex adaptive systems. That's not fast enough. That's not good enough. So we try to really free people up to be confident in the work that they're doing and then let them create. We can do that in a professional.
Yeah, so eliminating roadblocks and headwinds to create efficiencies and effectiveness, that comes with open communication, comfort in communicating, clarity in, right, and kind of whose roles, what's the responsibilities, and an understanding that it is my words, not yours, but it's a shared experience. Like, we're all in this thing together, and I don't necessarily, and you mentioned a word which I think, you mentioned empowerment, empowering leaders to do, or empowering people to do the job that they're asked to do. That sometimes, and I'll raise my hand on this, sometimes as leaders, my wounds are self-inflicted, right? I am my biggest headwind. I get in the way sometimes. What would you say to leaders that, might have a hard time. Micromanaging might not be the right word, but maybe getting in the weeds and not allowing their people to truly flourish and be successful in their role. Give us some thoughts around that.
Yeah, it is a challenge, right? Because when you are in a chief executive position or you're leading a division, a department, whatever it is, you're accountable for everything.
Yeah.
Right? And yet, you better, so 2 words, and it feels like I'm like the buzzword guy, but I've had time to think about this, Chad. Humility and curiosity. It's what I have to have, and it's what it's what I reward. I want people to ask questions. I want them to be curious. I want them to be humble and understand I don't have all the answers. Jon is okay that I don't have all the answers as long as I have a plan for getting them and I'm willing to be accountable for my work. And so we really try to reward humility and curiosity in this organization. And then we try to give people time and space and encouragement to go solve complex problems.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm bouncing here a lot, but I only have a finite amount of time with you, so I want to grab this. You mentioned when you were the CEO up at Albany, you leveraged MHA a lot, right? And you saw them as an asset. Of all the hospitals in Missouri, talk to us about ways that they could potentially lean on MHA or do lean on MHA, to be successful in their own right.
Sure. Healthcare is not simple,
yeah.
right? And hospitals and health systems are not simple. And so what happens is it's ripe for sharing of information and collaboration. It's ripe for knowing yourself really well, but it's also really nice when you can stop the hard work of producing an absolutely critical unit of life-saving care. I mean, you don't get to worry a lot about what else is going on, when you're in the middle of an encounter in an emergency department.
Yeah.
Or an ICU. What needs to happen then is it needs to be easy to ask those questions about how are other people doing this, and is our good really good? So I'll tell a story about us in Albany. I tell this one a lot. Statute of limitations has expired. Nobody's going to be mad at me. We were working internally on reducing or eliminating avoidable harm in our hospital, right? There are things that happen in hospitals that cause harm. People fall, people can get infections, and we know a lot about why that happens, right? So I'm getting a little weedy, but this I think will make sense. We were really worried in our organization as a rural hospital. We had something called swing bed. That's a post-acute status. It means people might come and stay for a long time. And so we would worry a lot about infections related to the use of a urinary catheter, right? So these are called CAUTIs, catheter-associated urinary tract infections. It's really sexy stuff for your podcast. Everybody wants to reduce CAUTIs or eliminate CAUTIs. We had done really good work. We had implemented what we thought were good interventions and good areas of focus for this, and our rates went way down. And we thought, man, we did great. Through MHA's quality improvement programming, we submitted our data, so did others around the state, and got it back in a sort of a great format where it was safe for people to tell the truth about what was going on. And what we figured out was we don't smell nearly as bad as we used to, but we don't smell nearly as good as a bunch of other folks who do what we do.
Right.
And so then there were additional interventions shared in that group, nurse-driven protocols, time frames, technologies, and all the rest. And we got to zero harm in our hospital. And I'm not sure we would have thought it was possible. Even if we thought it was possible, I'm not sure we would have known how to get there. But the shared learning, the collaboration, the understanding of where we really are and what the best of the best are doing and how we bring it into our environment. I gave you an example from my hospital years ago. We get to do that type of work in a lot of really important ways. One that we're talking about right now, Missouri has something called its Perinatal Quality Collaborative. It is a moral imperative in this state that we help moms and babies be healthier. A lot of things that drive problems for moms and babies happen outside the window of birth. They're prenatal, they're in the year afterward, they're whenever. But there are some, and we work on those issues. There are also some things that happen within the span that somebody's in and around the hospital, and we share in learnings on those things as well and try and drive that level of improvement. We make it easy for the care providers of the state to know that that's possible, to find the resources, to use them, to measure their success, and rinse and repeat. It's a great quality improvement loop. We do a lot of that type of work.
Yeah, so as a hospital, I don't have to do it all myself, right? And like you mentioned too, as a hospital, I don't know what I don't know. I could have blind spots thinking I'm doing everything right, but MHA I can lean on for a clearinghouse of best practices, networking with people, understanding, and just elevating my game. And that's really, I mean, I know there's so much that you do, but that's a core hub to helping hospitals across the state be successful, which I think is great.
Yeah, we got to create safe spaces for people to know how they're doing, safe spaces for people to collaborate, form new partnerships, think about new ways to do things, and then be open and honest about what their concerns are, what the possibilities are, what the barriers are. We're a convener, and it's whether we're helping people connect in the way that I talked about the Albany example, or whether it's helping different types of healthcare providers and community organizations deal with behavioral health in St. Louis. We are very proud to be a trusted sort of expert convener.
Yeah, I mean, table stakes are high in your space. They just are. I mean, not to say that. I mean, I'm sure every space in vertical table stakes are high, but I mean, there's, you're like you said, you're dealing with life and death in some situations, and health and all the things that you're tackling. Which again, I think I've had a chance to do a little work with MHA, as you know, and touch some hospitals, and I think the work that you do really is, a blessing for these hospitals to have an outlet like MHA. And I know that other states have this, but I mean, really just to be able to lean on, because, stress is high, and knowing that there are places I can go to and get some immediate answers, I think is a huge asset for the state. Now, again, I'm going to switch gears again because I want to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So let's focus on Jon for a second. How does Jon stay sane? How do you stay at your best? What are things that you do? And I don't know if they're divulge any secrets or anything or tell on yourself, but what are some of the things that you do to just, keep yourself balanced, just yourself?
Yeah, it was funny. I filled out a survey yesterday, Chad, and it said, what books are you reading or shows are you watching? Yeah. And my response was, are youth sports shows? Yeah. I am a family guy. You said it. I love to be with my folks, and I'm willing to do the work there. That's my primary source of balance. Then sometimes I don't want to be with my folks. One of my favorite things to do is go walk around Jeff City Country Club across the road here, or some golf course somewhere. I love to be outside. Because so much of my work is indoors, professional, buttoned up, and all the rest, I actually like it when the weather's terrible. I love to go out and walk around and sort of do my best when the rain's coming down sideways and the wind is blowing, because I don't get a lot of scoreboards in my work. It always feels like, okay, we did this thing, it's time to do the next thing. It is nice in some cases to go experience a little bit of adversity, do my best, get tired physically, and then sort of check back into the world. And again, my family affords me that. The flip side is I love it now that my kids are a little older and they like to play golf, and we can go spend time together in that way. Unfortunately, my knees and other parts of my body don't like pickup basketball as much as they used to.
Right.
But for years, I was the coach of whatever was in season. And I got tremendous health and balance from being able to run to the next practice and then see what I could contribute to a group of kids that included my kids and some others.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we know each other, and I'm going to make some assumptions here, but what I see in you, Jon, what I respect is that a couple things. One is the things that you do outside of work are what I call opportunity for you. You get to do those things. And you're also very selective. You don't have a lot of time in your life for obligation, right? Things that you have to do. And I know that your calendar's already full, but I think I admire that I always see you in places that you enjoy being at. I'm sure there's a suck factor in anything that we do, but I think that's so key, because I think even people today, leaders especially, they get caught up in all the noise and they get caught up in things, and the fulfillment kind of wanes eventually. And I think it's so important that you have to be your own best advocate to keep your tank full. And you found those things in family and golf and, some outside nature stuff that just allows you to, again, when you're doing what you're doing on a daily basis, allows you to, hopefully be at your best. Is that fair to say?
It is. And I'm gonna turn just a little bit morbid here. My stepfather was a guy that I really admired, and he passed away of pancreatic cancer very young, younger than I am now. And at his funeral, I talked about what an amazing gift it was to Mark, that what he enjoyed doing and what he should do were the same things, right? He had alignment in his life that there's always obligation, there's always work, there's always times you'd rather just put your feet up. But he was really good at the things that he loved to compete in anything. But he would compete to like, can I, he had an A in typing in high school. He's like, can I get 2 more words per minute? Right? It didn't matter what it was, but it was always productive. It was always constructive. It was always a little bit of self-improvement. He loved to work out. He was a basketball official. He was one of the best in the state. He loved getting better at being a basketball official. Like, so he wasn't off chasing a bunch of stuff that was, just goofing around. Yeah. And I think I'm a little bit the same, right? I have great alignment in my life, that the stuff that matters to me, my church, my family, those are also things I enjoy.
Yeah. Let me go back to the kind of the beginning of the conversation. You mentioned that there were some people in your life that took you back to Albany, got you to Emmett. You know what I mean? Think about, as a young leader or a leader that's trying to find his or her way, what would be kind of Jon's 3 to 5 tips or best practices that you would say, here are some things that you might want to anchor in or continue to anchor in and evolve for you to continue to excel and grow in your career?
Yeah. Leadership matters a lot, in my opinion. And people think they're good leaders. Oftentimes they think they're good leaders because they're really good individual contributors, and people follow them because of their acumen. Sure. Right? We've joked about this. My 2 oldest kids, Sarah and Nate, Sarah's a total type A, high achiever. Nate's the most loyal guy in the world. In back-to-back years, they were the student body presidents in Albany. Sarah was the student body president because everybody knew she should be. Nate was the student body president because everybody knew that Nate would take a bullet for them. Yeah. Right? Like at the opposite ends of the leadership spectrum, not that they both care, they're both smart, but expressed in completely different ways. Here's my point. When you talk about tips and tricks, number 1, know yourself, right? Leadership is a discipline, right? People get confused about what leadership is. They're drawn to people who are good at something, or they're drawn to people who are nice, and those are all parts of leadership. But understanding that leadership is a discipline, it's something that's learned, it's something that needs to be polished and studied. I'm not sure I always knew that. And so when I talk to young leaders, they're in roles because they've been good at stuff. It's convincing them to then invest in themselves, become self-aware, ask hard questions. For me, the magic on this was I ask a guy, hey, what should I read? What should I do? What should I learn? It's always nice to have an environment where people are asking questions. And he said, start with John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, right? Which for me is like the textbook of servant leadership. I'm drawn to servant leadership. I absolutely love the idea that everyone's a leader. Leadership is influence. And so I would direct people there, and I would have them think about their place in taking care of people. From there, Chad, culture of ownership. No matter what we're doing, how do you enable people to own their work, own their lives, own their success? As soon as you start with everybody's a leader, because everybody has influence, the next question is, how do you help people lead themselves to success? And a culture of ownership, thinking of what you're competing every day to earn the right to have people continue to work with you, is a really important mindset. And so that's where I would start. From there, let's do recognition. The recognition that really matters isn't always super expensive. But being in an organization that's good at recognition, here at MHA, we have a values and action program. It's really easy for people to recognize one another. The peer-to-peer stuff that gets highlighted in front of the entire organization doesn't come with great financial reward, but it means something. And then the folks who do that or who receive that, then I get together with them every month or two for lunch, and I make them tell the story again. Hey, do you remember why you were recognized? And it's another chance to go back through and just reinforce and celebrate the sorts of behaviors and culture that makes us a fun place to be. And so those would be, you said 3 to 5. Those are my 3.
Yeah.
Invest.
Well, I mean, yeah, so much rich information there, Jon. I think, another thing that you mentioned maybe indirectly is the fact that, there's also, as a leader, you have to find other people that you can trust and lean on and help you grow throughout your career, those mentors or, whatever it is that might be. So I think that that's all valuable. We have some people, we've done a lot of work with hospitals in Missouri, as you know. We have some people that might be listening. Tell us where, if I'm in a hospital and want some help with MHA, how do I find you? Give you a little bit of a plug. And, what would you say, let me ask you this, where would we find you? So give us where we can find your information. But the second thing is, what maybe are hospitals not leveraging as much as they could be with MHA to maximize the partnership? Maybe start there.
Yeah, I like that question. Okay,
Yeah.
So simple spot, www.mohospitals.org, right? So there are a lot of MHAs out there because it turns out, Chad, there are a lot of states that start with M. None of the rest of them wanted mohospitals.org, so we are happy to claim that as our turf.
Perfect.
We have a lot of brands, we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of things that we offer. You can find any of them through that website.
Okay.
As far as what we offer that people could gain even more benefit from, it's up to us to keep growing our programming. There are a ton of expert resources, position briefs, and all the rest. The main thing that folks can do with us, I'd say 2 tracks. We are very proud to offer a lot of education to our member organizations, and we're proud to offer a lot of opportunities for people to get together and work on solving hard problems. And a lot of people think in that vertical, right? I work at Hospital X. My boss is Timmy. I'm going to take a lot of direction from Timmy. As you know, people who take ownership of their own success and try and do things outside of what they're directed to do tend to be really valuable. And I always used to preach, when I was in the hospital in Albany, we became part of a larger system at Mosaic. And what I told my leaders was, I told them, you still have to be great at running the radiology department, but what just changed for you is your organizational agility has to go up by 100. Because you now have somebody 50 miles from here who's thinking about your success. We need to go compete for resources, attention. We need to demonstrate results. Organizational agility, super important. And then what MHA can help with is industry or field agility. How do I talk to other people like me around the state? How do I take advantage of educational resources? How do I get those best practices in a one-stop shop? The fun thing about us, we're kind of like a retail bank. We got a lot of directors and vice presidents because everybody here is an expert. So call and ask. When somebody calls me, by the way, 660-822-6023 is my cell phone number. If you work for a Missouri hospital and you've got a question, I'll take it and I'll get you the right person.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jon, I certainly appreciate your time. Again, tons of great information. We could do this for hours. But listen, keep making awesome stuff happen. It's an honor and a privilege to call you a friend and a business colleague. So again, thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thanks for your work for us and for the people we get to serve, man. I always enjoy it.
You bet. Thanks, Jon.
Cheers.